There's a massive problem that's been popping up more and more recently, and that's the fact that bots are low-key or actually very high-key ruining League of Legends. This is a problem that has been completely ignored by Riot, and the problem has just been getting worse and worse over time. Now, you may be saying to yourself, well, I've never encountered a problem with bots before, and congratulations, that's probably because you're not in elo hell as hell. You see, this is a problem that's been mainly targeting iron players, bronze players, as well as new players. Now, while this doesn't directly affect all of us high elo, silver, and gold giga chads, we should all be concerned about this because it turns out when people stop playing your game and people stop joining, your game dies. Nevertheless, there are two types of bots taking over League: the leveling bots, which can be ironically found in bot games, and the ranked bots, which can be found mostly in iron and bronze games. Let's start off by talking about the leveling bots. I'm sure most of you are aware that there is an entire black market for selling and buying accounts in this game. People hate leveling up to level 30, so instead of doing that, they just go out and buy accounts to save themselves the time. Now, what a lot of current players don't understand is how many bots are actually being used to level up these accounts in these beginner and intermediate bot games. And honestly, it makes sense, because there's no real reason for most players to know about it, because there's no real reason for most players to play bot games anymore. Personally, I only found this out because I needed footage of bots one day, but what I didn't expect once I jumped in the game was to get footage of bots playing against other bots. Now, the suckiest part about all of this is that the bots on your team suck substantially more than the bots on the other team. The bots on your team literally walked back and forth in the fountain all game while occasionally coming out to dance around in the lane to avoid the lever buster, while the bots on the other team were at least somewhat trying to end the game. Now, this is where the first problem came into play. I was conflicted because a part of me didn't want to help their cause and get them their free XP by winning the game for them, but I also couldn't really leave the game either. Otherwise, I'd not only get penalized, but I'd also have to wait for the intro bots to win the game. Which, no offense to the intro bots, I know they're trying their best, but unfortunately their best still sucked, so I didn't really want to wait an hour for them to win. And yes, the intro bots would have to win because the bots on my team were doing absolutely jack shit. I can safely say this is the first time I'd ever been held hostage by bots. Even though this may not seem like a huge issue, and I suppose it isn't compared to some things like what I'm going to talk about later, it's still really f***ing annoying. I mean, just think about it. If new players were trying to level up their accounts, they'd be stuck having to win the game by themselves, which isn't that hard, but as new players who have no idea what's going on and no idea what this thing is, it would kind of suck. And like me, even if they wanted to leave the game, they wouldn't be able to without getting penalized. So instead, they're forced to play the rest of the game with a bunch of bots. I mean, this even sucks for non-new players too, just trying to legitimately create a new account, because games would take way longer to win, and once they saw this crap in the game for themselves, they'd probably be more inclined to just pay for an account too. And honestly, at this point, I can't even blame them. And thus, the endless cycle continues. Like I said, this is just the start of the problems. The real issue starts when you get into low elo ranked queue, because bots are taking over the game there too. If you dive a bit deeper into the underworld and black market of League of Legends, there lies a very specific niche for buying and selling accounts. You see, it turns out that some iron accounts with absolutely atrocious MMR can sell for more than some diamond accounts. In fact, some iron 4 accounts can sell for hundreds of dollars. Why is that though? Well, that's because of the scummy world of win streak fetishers. Fetishies. Is that even a word? I don't care, I'm gonna use it anyways. These are the players that need major ego boosts, so they end up buying iron accounts to stomp players and see how many games they can win in a row. Something that just wouldn't be possible in higher elos. These iron accounts would have such terrible MMR that even if they won 100 games in a row, they would still probably have bronze MMR. But enough about that, let's get a bit deeper into the rank bots themselves and how they work. This is Tonic, an iron bot account on the NA server who has an incredible 18% win rate. And right off the bat, we can see that their favorite champion is none other than the infamous Yuumi. I swear this cat is the source of all evil. Yuumi is consistently one of the most popular champions to bot with, which really shouldn't be too surprising since it's probably one of the easiest to script, since all you have to really do is click on your team with your W and then just kind of sit there for the entire rest of the game, which in fact is exactly what these Yuumi bots do. I mean, just look at this game for instance. You don't even have to go as far as laning phase to see how fantastic it is to play with these bots. Here the enemy team invades, which is fine, and Yuumi gets on Ezreal, which is also fine. Nothing too out of place yet until we get to this point where Ezreal is running away through the mid lane by the minion wave, and then Yuumi gets off Ezreal because it thinks we're in laning phase now. So it just casually starts farming away in the middle of 3 of them. Honestly, it's kind of crazy that no one hits Yuumi at first. Even Varus kind of spaced out there autoing minions. But nevertheless, eventually Yuumi gets slapped, but not before she has time to blow her heal and flash. Why she has flash to blow in the first place is beyond me. Probably because she's a bot. Now throughout all of laning phase, all this stupid cat does is sit on Ezreal Ezreal and hit E. No Qs were ever used. They just sit there in deadass silence and quite literally let themselves get carried. But in this case, they're not trying to let themselves get carried, they're trying to do the complete opposite. They're trying to do their best barbell cosplay, attempting to drag you down like the dead weight they are. Can you tell I'm not a Yuumi fan? I mean, just think about how annoying this would be to have this stupid cat on you in your ranked games who quite literally does nothing but sit there. Anyways, Ezreal unfortunately dies, which is to be expected in a 1v2, and then Yuumi, instead of recalling, decides to help save the environment and just walk back to Ezreal. Later on, when Yuumi finally does back with Ezreal, she buys absolutely nothing. That's because these bots are only programmed to buy huge items at a time, so if they can't afford it, they just don't buy anything at all. Spoilers though, eventually she does buy an item, but the first item she gets is Medjai's. As you can see, the Yuumi bot is extremely fun to play with. I mean, just look at that damage chart. Now, while I'd really like to direct all hate to solely at this dumb cat, this problem revolves around more than just one champion. Instead, these bots target a specific role: support. These ranked bots actually have a fairly large champion pool, playing champions like Janna, Taric, and Soraka, but their two favorites by far are Yuumi and Annie, two of the most mechanically simple champions in the game. Anyways, the problem has gotten so bad that if you look at the win rate for champions in Iron Elo, you can see that Annie has a 32.39% win rate. A 32% win rate. And then Yuumi isn't doing too much better at a 40% win rate. And what's really crazy is if you look at just the support role, Annie has a 27.99% win rate. Now, how is Annie doing such a better job at sabotaging games than Yuumi? Well, it really just comes down to the fact that Annie can't latch on to other people like Yuumi can. And because of that, the bot is a lot more helpless and dumb. Take this game for instance. Like Yuumi during the laning phase, Annie just sits there, but instead of being able to heal her ADC, she just drops Ignite on them and throws in some auto attacks. Later in the game, you can see how useless she truly is as she just stands there while Dragon is being taken, and then stands there again watching mindlessly as Ashe gets massacred by Twitch. The cherry on top is her turning around right after and walking straight back to spawn so she can be ready to once again comfort Ashe for moral support, because let's be honest, that's all she's really good for. And things don't get much better later in the game either, as seen here, where instead of helping her team, Annie decided to do her best faker impersonation, literally doing absolutely nothing. Like, come on man, even Yuumi bot was at least trying. This is just sad. While I suppose it's somewhat excusable for Yuumi to do little to no damage, for Annie it's just a bit pitiful to look at. I mean, at least Yuumi heals you every so often, but this thing is dog shit. But hey, I guess we figured out why Annie's win rate is so low. Now, I would like to say that having a bot in this elo in your ranked game is a rare occurrence, but it's not. In fact, it's almost expected. These bots show up so often that a lot of the time there will be two of them playing against each other in one game, which I guess is better than just having one, since it kind of evens it out a bit. I don't know, man. The saddest thing about all of this is that from watching these replays, you can just tell that these players are so used to it already. I mean, no one even question mark pings them anymore because they know there's no point. They just accept that they're a part of the game, which is honestly just so messed up in itself. I'd like to emphasize once again that while most of us aren't currently in this for fun elo, a lot of us at some point in our League of Legends career were in these bottomless pits of hell. We should all care about this because who knows, maybe one of those bots will end up in one of your games one day, whether that be them getting smarter or us just getting dumber. Not to mention the fact that this actually kills the amount of new people joining League. I mean, just take a second and picture the full experience that a brand new player would have to go through right now. They'll start off with a tutorial, which is scarring enough, but then they'll immediately have to experience the leveling bots on their team that do nothing. Then once they're finally level 30, maybe they'll try ranked, only to once again encounter playing with more bots that once again do absolutely nothing. They'll probably at one point even have to play against those stupid win streak smurfs that ended up buying those Iron 4 accounts in the first place. Not to mention all the other normal smurfs and just the League of Legends community in itself. I mean, we all know that that's enough misery to deal with alone. Needless to say, their experience playing this game is going to be absolutely shit. I really do hope Riot will address this soon. And if you are in the bot elo, maybe just let Yuumi through. Because let's be honest, you really don't want Annie on your team. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Devin, Knocktack, and James, thank you so freaking much for being tier 3 patrons. And Samurai, thank you so freaking much for being a tier 4 patron. And thank you so much to all my other patrons as well. Bye.